when I graduated from high school, I was very much tired of school. I didn't feel like I did very well in my high school studies. I did really good until I went to Macaulay, and then after that I didn't do very good. And so that whole thing was kind of a disillusioning downer, if you will. I'm not saying that I probably didn't get educated pretty good, but I wasn't motivated to learn and study and had really no idea what I wanted to do with my life. And so when I started college in the fall of '79, I think my brother had already been going a couple of years to MTSU, and he was already kind of rolling in the aerospace thing he was doing. It was doing pretty good, and he was in the Navy ROTC kind of program, going to go be a pilot, which was always his thing. And so, you know, I thought about doing that stuff a little bit. I wound up signing up for some engineering type courses, I think, you know, calculus and a couple other things. And most of the time I spent my days shooting pool down at the student center and smoking Lucky Strikes, you know what I mean? And I didn't go to class very much because they didn't make you go. Nobody cared if you went or not, and I had zero discipline. So, you know, along about the drop date, I dropped everything I had except one class, and that was, I think they called it Math 150, which was a calculus class or something like that. And I didn't really go to it and didn't study and didn't do any homework and just really fumbled around, and eventually made an F in that. And so my first semester in college, I racked up like Blutarsky in Animal House, a 0.0. So my first semester was a total loss. I really didn't know what to do after that either, so somehow or another I don't even know what I did as far as switching majors or anything else. I signed up for some other basic courses in the spring, and I didn't really do any better in that either, and I struggled with that. And you know, I think I passed the classes that I took. I wound up not going to class very often, and you know, I wound up missing a final exam in one of the classes, and I think I was actually playing a golf tournament. I can't remember exactly, but you know, I mentioned to the professor that I was going to miss the final exam, and they said, "Oh, okay, that's okay, no problem. We'll make it up some other time." And turns out that professor lured me into a very inappropriate sexual kind of thing that wound up really messing me up when it came to school. And I passed my classes and everything, but after that semester I decided, you know what, school's just not for me. I'm gonna quit. I'm done with this. And I just went to work for a living, working at the driving range at Wilcox Golf Range over on Shalford Road. And, you know, that's what I did, and I worked there in the evenings, and I started, really kind of seeking God about what it is He wanted me to do with myself, because I was really at a loss for all of that. And, it wasn't too long after that I started getting phone calls about people wanting me to play guitar for them and stuff. And it was always church-related music stuff. And back in those days, there weren't really any, there wasn't any modern music in church. It was piano, organ, choir singing, that was it, And so, the opportunities were pretty rare when it came to playing electric guitar and any kind of guitar and doing the kind of music that I wanted to do. So, eventually I started getting some opportunities to go play music, and most of these things were bands that were doing recording and playing in coffee houses and stuff like that, and other kind of alternative kind of Christian venues. And I started developing some pretty good relationships in that whole world, and people liked the way I play guitar, and they wanted me to play on their recordings and stuff some, and I did some of that. And I just kept seeking God about what it is He wanted me to do with my life. And I stayed out of college for about a year while I, was kind of just sorting through what it was going to be that I was going to study. And it's really a pretty good time of playing music and working and just living life. It kind of let me recharge a little bit, and I started getting some focus and energy back on investing in myself as far as education was concerned. And then it wasn't too long after that when I finally did go back to college. I decided I wanted to study business finance. I think it was the early 80s by that point, and the economy was bad. And, I really watched Moneyline on CNN with Lou Dobbs every single night, it seemed. And that was my favorite show, to try to figure out what was wrong with the economy. And Lee Iacocca was taking over Chrysler, who had, I think gone bankrupt, and the United States government bailed them out. And we had some really difficult problems back in those days from a financial perspective, because you had very, very high interest rates, because the Federal Reserve chairman at that time was dedicated to squeezing inflation out of the economy. And so I think prime rate was like 17%, back in the early 80s. It was just an odd time. It's what's really funny in perspective is today it's the exact opposite. There's a lot of inflation in this economy, but interest rates are 0%. And really, the peak of interest rates was in 1979, 1980 time frame, and since that time, they've gone from 17% or so all the way to 0. And some people think it's going negative, but that's a pretty interesting little aside. Bottom line is, I was interested in business, and I was interested in economics, and I was interested in capitalism, and I was interested in kind of knowing what was going on in that whole world. So I decided to study that, and spent the next couple of years studying that and getting a degree in business finance. And the whole time was playing music with church people, and there was a fellowship here in town called Calvary Chapel that I started going to, and we had a pretty decent music thing going on, and we had an outreach ministry in the music that we went out and played music, and that was just a good time of kind of getting back in touch with reality and tapping into what God, designed me to do. And so that was a period of really good times there as far as the education was concerned, and the church music. It was a really good time, and I learned a lot and felt good about what I was doing, and not too long after that, graduated from UTC with a degree in business finance, I think in May of '85. So that's that part of it.